You've said it so many times you've forgotten where it began. Words that don't belong to you, slipping out like breath. I'm fine. It's nothing. I guess I'm just like this. I shouldn't complain. They meant well. It doesn't matter. But it does matter. It always mattered. Because the more you say it, the more the world believes you. And worse, the more you believe you. 1,000 quiet betrayals stitched into casual sentences. No one notices, not even you, at first. But language is a spell, and like all spells, it has a cost. Every word you utter shapes not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. Every phrase becomes a frame, a role, a costume that hardens into skin. You begin to live inside the story you never meant to write. You wake up one morning and can't feel the edges of your truth. It's not that you're lying. It's that your words have become a soundproof room, comfortable, familiar, and utterly suffocating. People say, use your voice. But what if your voice has been used against you? What if the phrases you lean on are the same ones that broke you? Because you didn't lose yourself all at once. You lost yourself phrase by phrase, agreement by agreement, apology by apology. Each sentence a stone. Each conversation another layer of silence beneath the noise. Until one day, you're fluent in everyone else's comfort and mute in your own truth. You've built an invisible prison, and the worst part is, you did it politely, lovingly, quietly. No one warned you that kindness could be a muzzle, that peacekeeping could become self-erasure, that saying the right thing over and over could kill the most alive part of you. And now you live in a world that looks like yours, but feels like theirs. You say what they expect. You react the way they're used to. You smile in all the familiar places. But inside, you're screaming in a language no one remembers teaching you. This isn't about speaking up. It's about unlearning the way you disappeared. Because every phrase you repeat without question is a door that closes. And one day, you'll wake up behind all those doors, surrounded by words, and yet, utterly, devastatingly alone. It starts so quietly you don't even notice it. One harmless phrase, then another, and another. What begins as survival becomes a rhythm. What begins as protection becomes performance. You tell your friend, it's no big deal, even though you haven't slept in 3 nights. You tell your partner, I'm just being dramatic, even though your heart feels like it's drowning. You laugh it off at work, you minimize, you manage, you mold. And each time you do, your body remembers, not the truth, but the rehearsal. You are no longer speaking to connect. You are speaking to control, to manage their reactions, to avoid discomfort, to keep peace even if it costs your own. This isn't communication, it's choreography. And the more you repeat it, the more convincing the illusion becomes. People start saying, you're so easygoing, you're so strong. You're always so calm, and you nod. You thank them. You feel proud. But deep inside, something shrinks. Because you know it isn't strength, it's silence. And silence, repeated long enough, becomes erasure. You stop trusting your instincts. You question your memories. You wonder if you're just too sensitive, too needy, too much. But it's not you. It's the prison of your own language, built phrase by phrase. The worst part is that it works. You get rewarded for disappearing, You get praise for emotional neutrality. You get love for making others comfortable. You get safety by becoming unreadable. But what you don't get is freedom. What you don't get is you. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being someone with a soul and became someone with a script. Your identity becomes a collage of pre-approved sentences. Your pain is edited for clarity. Your truth is softened for audience appeal. And what you don't say, it rots in your throat, in your chest, in your dreams, until one day you don't recognize your own voice. Not because it's missing, but because it's buried under all the things you said to survive. The Stoics said, "You are the sculptor of your own soul." But what they didn't say, at least not loudly enough, is that the chisel isn't always action. Sometimes it's speech. Sometimes it's what you repeat when no one's listening. Sometimes it's what you won't let yourself say, even in your own head. You are sculpting, yes, but what are you sculpting with your words? Are you carving a home or a tomb? Because every sentence you repeat carves deeper into you. I don't want to be a burden. They probably didn't mean it. I should be grateful. This is just who I am. I always overreact. It could be worse. At first, these phrases protect you. They keep you small, quiet, manageable. They keep you from exploding when your body needs to rage. They keep you from collapsing when your soul is exhausted. They keep you smiling, functional, digestible, and they work. Oh, how they work. You hold it together. You keep your relationships. You avoid conflict. You survive. But eventually, they become the clay you're sculpting with. And you are sculpting yourself out of lies, polite lies, useful lies, socially acceptable lies, but lies still. You repeat them so often they begin to feel like character traits. You think you're easygoing, but really, you're just afraid to speak what you truly want. You think you're patient, but really, you're just terrified of being called selfish. You think you're understanding, but really, you've taught yourself to never expect apology. And what is left of you? Once your language has turned against your essence, you become fluent in endurance, articulate in dismissal, eloquent in self-neglect, but mute in your own hunger, mute in your own anger, mute in your own grief. You've sculpted a masterpiece of restraint and locked yourself inside it, a monument to your own disappearance. And people admire it. They call you wise, mature, composed. They don't see the blood beneath the marble. They don't see the hands that built it, your own bleeding from holding in everything you never said. The words you swallowed, the truths you diluted, the honesty you exiled to keep peace with a world that never made peace with you. You are the sculptor, but the hands are shaking now. And maybe that's the first sign of something sacred returning. The tremble before truth. The fracture before freedom. There is no phrase more quietly violent than "I'm fine." Not because it's a lie, but because it's a burial. Each time you say it when you're not, you don't just deceive someone else. You abandon the part of you that needed to be held. You silence the grief before it can speak. You smother the anger before it can breathe. You amputate the need before it can reach out. And no one stops you. In fact, they reward you. You become the reliable one, the strong one, the emotionally stable one. But you know the truth. It's not stability. It's silence. A silence so thick, so practiced, it becomes part of your voice. You start believing that your pain is irrelevant, that your sadness is excessive, that your desire for comfort is weakness. So you wear the same sentence every day like armor. I'm fine. And the armor works. No one asks questions. No one looks too closely. No one waits for your real answer. Even you stop waiting. Even you stop asking, am I really fine? You start adjusting your truth to match the mask. You water yourself down until there's nothing left to drown in, nothing left to carry, nothing left to cry for, just a smile, just the right tone, just the perfectly timed laugh when someone makes a joke that cuts you just a little too deep, and the damage isn't loud. It's slow, steady, invisible, like rust on the inside of a pipe. You function. You show up. You're productive. You make others feel safe. But you're evaporating. Because when no one sees your truth, you start forgetting it too. You start confusing coping with peace, compliance with strength, suppression with maturity. And it's not until the breakdown comes, quiet or explosive, physical or mental, that you finally ask, how did I get here? But you already know. It was every time you said, I'm fine. When what you really meant was, I'm exhausted. I feel invisible. I'm afraid no one really knows me. I don't want to do this anymore. I need help. I'm breaking. But you didn't say any of it. And that silence didn't protect you. It isolated you. You thought you were being strong, but really, you were vanishing, not in one moment, but sentence by sentence, until your entire life became a monologue of disappearance, and you, the real you, was left backstage, waiting for you to stop performing peace and start speaking truth, even if it shakes, even if it's messy, even if no one claps. Because anything is better than living behind applause for a role you never wanted to play. There is a voice in you that you haven't heard in years. Not because it left, but because you stopped listening. It's the voice beneath the explanations, beneath the strategies, beneath the well-practiced calm. It doesn't speak like your outer voice. It doesn't argue. It doesn't persuade. It doesn't care if it makes sense. It trembles. It whispers. It repeats the same word over and over until you stop ignoring it. Sometimes that word is no. Sometimes it's help. Sometimes it's nothing more than a long, breathless please. You buried it under routines, under identities that pleased others, under relationships that required your silence as currency. You made space for their emotions and erased your own. You anticipated their moods and postponed your truth. You learned to abandon yourself in the name of love, harmony, strength. But this voice, this inner voice, never stopped trying to reach you. In the moments before sleep, when your defenses are down. In the shower, where your mask slips without an audience. In the quiet after a long day, when the room is still but your chest is not. It comes back, not to shame you, not to blame you, but to remind you of the self you left behind while trying to be enough. It says things you don't want to admit. I don't trust anyone. I don't even know what I want anymore. I feel like a stranger in my own life. I'm tired of performing. I just want to be real. And for a moment, you hear it. You feel the sting of honesty rush in like cold air through a cracked window. But then, habit returns. You rehearse your lines. You tighten your throat. You smile. You go back to being the version of yourself that no one ever questions. But that voice, the buried one, knows. It knows every apology you made just to be liked. It knows every desire you buried to be acceptable. It knows every time you chose quiet over truth because you feared rejection more than invisibility. And it's waiting. Not for the perfect moment. Not for someone to rescue you. But for you to stop choosing performance over presence. To stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What have I abandoned to be accepted?" You think it's too late to find your real voice. It's not, but it will cost you something. It will cost you your certainty, your reputation, your ability to blend in, your script, and what you'll gain. Yourself, whole, unpolished, and finally heard, even if only by you. You won't escape this by speaking louder. You won't reclaim yourself by shouting over your fear or forcing confidence into your tone. This isn't a performance you can rehearse your way out of. This is a stillness you must enter. A room inside you where all the phrases you've ever repeated sit like ghosts at a long table, waiting to be seen, waiting to be released. You have to walk in, sit down with them, and listen. Not to what they say now, but to why you needed them then. I'm fine. Maybe it once meant, "Please don't leave me. I guess that's just how I am." Maybe it once meant, "If I change, will I still belong?" It's not a big deal. Maybe it once meant, "No one ever cared before." Why would they now? These weren't just words. They were survival codes, emotional armor, coping spells you cast without knowing the magic would eventually cost you your own voice. You didn't lie to manipulate, you lied to exist. But now? Now the armor is rusted, the spell is backfiring, and the silence that once kept you safe is choking you, so you stop. Not the world, not the people, just you. You stop mid-sentence. You pause before the automatic phrase can leave your lips. You feel the tremor of truth rising up your throat like heat, like grief, like a question that never got asked. What happens if I say something real? What happens if I tell the truth that I haven't even admitted to myself? That I feel forgotten in a room full of people? That I don't feel loved unless I'm useful? That I'm angry at myself for always being the one who bends? And when you say it not perfectly, not eloquently, but honestly, something shifts. It hurts, yes, but it heals too. Because truth doesn't punish. It frees. It dismantles the prison, brick by brick. Not with shouting, not with rage, but with honesty. That's the chisel you were missing all along. Not the loud kind, not the charismatic kind, not the TED Talk kind, but the kind that sounds like, "I'm not fine. I don't want this. I miss who I was. I want to be heard, not handled." You won't say it all at once. You can't, but the silence you once used as a shield can now become sacred. Not a void, but a space where truth can finally breathe. And when you feel that silence expanding, not as punishment, but as peace, you'll know. You're no longer rehearsing, you're returning. There is a silence that isn't empty. It's not the silence of being ignored, or dismissed, or forgotten. It's the silence that comes after the noise. The silence that arrives when you finally stop performing. It's raw at first. You feel naked in it, exposed, uncertain. Because for the first time in years, You're not cushioning your truth in half smiles and practiced tone. You're not translating your soul into something digestible. You're just here, breathing, present, and you begin to notice how loud the world really is, how often it demands your explanation, how often it asks you to justify your feelings, your needs, your existence. But in this silence, you don't explain. You don't soften your words to keep the peace. You don't trade honesty for harmony. You just let yourself be. You realize that you were never mute, only rehearsed, only conditioned, only fluent in the language of survival. But underneath all that, there's a voice that's been waiting, not perfect, not polished, not poetic, but real. It stumbles, it shakes, it weeps mid-sentence. It says things that don't make sense. It says things you wish it wouldn't, but it tells the truth. And in that truth, you find the fragments of yourself. The one who didn't need to smile to be worthy. The one who didn't apologize just for feeling. The one who didn't edit their soul for someone else's comfort. You meet them again, and they don't ask you for answers. They just want to know, are you ready to stop leaving yourself behind? Because that's what this is, not a revolution, not a breakthrough, a return. To the voice before the noise, to the honesty before the performance, to the self before the script. And as you stand in that stillness, you realize you don't need to scream. You don't need to prove. You don't even need to explain. You just need to stop repeating what no longer belongs to you. And let silence finish the sentence. Let silence be the new truth. Because maybe the life you're meant to live is the one you no longer have to speak into existence. It's the one that breathes on its own, without effort, without defense, without the invisible prison of your own words. Just you, finally, here,